Thanks for supporting us on Patreon. Welcome to our monthly critique.
Hey, Dana's back. Nydia's functional.
Nydia's surviving.
Eh.
All right, Cindy, how are you?
I'm here.
Perfect.
I'm here.
Love the energy. This is great.
I haven't been to work since December 23rd.
I love that for you.
And I need to be in a job. I need to be doing something.
Yeah. Well. Okay.
That's fine for you.
I hate it. So I hate work. So I'm not going back until
I'm like, I
Valentine's
could definitely use a month off. Just
Definitely.
for the sake of just having a month off. Do I need to work? Yes, eventually, but I would love to have just a month off, just do some mental recap.
But you don't feel sick at all, or you feel okay?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yes, you.
Yeah, no, I never really felt sick. I just like a little bit lightheaded. I don't know if I have COVID. I never got the results back.
That is so crazy to me.
Yeah, well, there's a little theory. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I went to the Atlantic City Convention Center and got my test there after waiting like an hour in a line outside.
Yeah.
Very poorly run. And then I went on the website, never got the results back, went on the website, and it turns out that it's linked directly to the mayor's office through some bogus medical company that they created. I'll just leave it at that.
I don't know what that means.
I don't feel safe to say it on here, so.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because his wife is my superintendent, so.
Oh, fantastic.
Now.
Yeah. Oh, it goes deep. Yeah. It goes.
It just happened.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling okay, and I miss you guys.
Yeah.
Same.
I didn't stop working though.
Nydia is just gonna be crunching during this whole video.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're so nasty.
Sorry, I was hungry. I was feeling peckish.
All right, so do we want to tell the people what we watched?
Yeah, go ahead.
We're doing something a little different.
Yes.
I know we love our murder documentaries or our conspiracy documentaries, but we're going a whole other way. We're gonna go with Encanto since everybody's talking about it. I don't know if Nydia can relate, but I can relate to some of this shit.
Girl. Yes, definitely. Generational trauma? Yes, definitely.
Yes. And there's, so if you haven't watched it, you should probably go watch it.
Go watch it. Yeah.
If not, enjoy the spoilers and the not conspiracies, but the theories behind everything and our ideas behind each character, basically. So
let's do it.
Let's do it.
So let's just start by, what did you guys think? Did you love it?
I loved it. I was a little bit upset because Lin-Manuel, who was one of the writers and who wrote the music for it, once again, dude, you're Puerto Rican. Can we get a Puerto Rican Disney story? Like just one, a half of one, a little one,
Yeah.
So he goes with Colombia, which is, great. But initially when I heard the title Encanto, I was like, oh, maybe this is about Puerto Rico, because it's called La Isla del Encanto, the land of the enchantment, because that's what Encanto means, enchantment. So I was just like, when is he gonna do this, man? Give us a heritage story.
I wonder how much control he has over that, though. Like, as far as like from Disney's perspective, or
I mean, he wrote the story.
Did he write the story and the music, or just the music? Oh, yeah,
well,
I don't know.
He had apparently he had gone to Colombia, a town in Colombia, and they based it on this little town in Colombia, and they had a one lady that was was their guide to the Colombian heritage and the cultures and everything that they did, and they used her as their full guide on this when writing this up and making sure that everything was on par with like the food, the clothing, and everything about them.
Let me just tell you, piggybacking off of what Cindy just said, this is the first time, and bravo, this is the first time that Hispanics are depicted exactly the way that they are. Their color, the rainbow. Like in that town, you had very, very dark Hispanics and very, very light Hispanics. And I loved that the family had that rainbow of colors in there, because that's what our families look like.
Yeah, so he got a lot of flack for In the Heights for having so many white Hispanic people. So I thought that was really good that he like took that criticism and really ran with it, because I noticed that too, that there was such an array of color represented in characters.
I didn't, when I saw In the Heights, which I didn't enjoy In the Heights, I'm gonna be unpopular opinion, I did not enjoy it. I thought that was bogus. I thought that him getting slack for that, I thought that was bullshit. He had plenty of representation. I didn't understand what the point was.
Yeah, I mean, that is not like, I mean, it was not something I noticed, but like clearly it wouldn't be something I noticed, because that's not where I look for representation, you know. So I did.
I didn't agree with that. He had Afro Latinos in there. He had everybody. Like, you know, I didn't agree with that.
I do think that it's, whether, you know, it was enough for people or it wasn't, the fact that it was paid attention to within this film is, you know, that's progress, right? Like that's so good, really great.
Yeah. And he did it like I'm not saying he did it personally, but they did it fucking excellently. How like in the same family you could have somebody as dark as the little guy, I forget what his name was, the last one, and as light as, you know, I forget who the lightest one was, but like you can have that whole spectrum and all be related,
and everybody in between. Like there were, you know, shades of color all between. It was really beautiful.
Right. Yeah, I really like that. I appreciated that.
I will tell you, like in meeting you guys, like meeting your family, Nydia and your siblings specifically, you know, you three, you know, your sister and your brother, you all look so different. And then like your sister's kids all looked so different. Like that was really the first time I was like, oh, y'all like can just be
any color,
all kinds of colors. Yeah. Like I didn't really know that until I met you, you know?
Yeah. Like when I first got married to my ex-husband, which, you know, a white guy, I told him, I was like, don't be surprised if our kid comes out like a completely different shade. I didn't cheat, but I'm Hispanic, and it's you know, it's in my genetics, you know. So David came out olive skinned and with coarse hair, you know, like blacker hair, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like if David wanted to, he could sport an afro, and I have super straight hair, and my ex-husband has super straight hair, and you know, Natalie has super tight curls, and you know, we can have really, and my niece is blonde, you know, so you can really have anybody.
Yeah, your nieces and your nephews are like just the same, like mirror image of you and your siblings. I think it's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So go ahead, Cindy.
No, I was listening. But yeah, that's I've got to say, Nydia, as Danny was watching this with me, Tia Pepa's husband, Felix.
He was my favorite character.
I've got to tell you, Danny was like, he reminds me of Kike.
Yeah, he was my favorite character.
Your stepdad. And she was just like, it's him. And it ties even more to the characters, to the two characters, to really well, and I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that going in, but we were definitely reminded of your family in that aspect.
Yeah,
between
and I really this movie really resonated with me and my own family because we have a similar structure like that, you know. And my stepdad was like the Felix character, you know. He's very, very dark skinned, black, you know, black, African Hispanic, Afro Hispanic. So, and my brother was dark. And so I could relate to his kids, and you know with Pepa was the one with the storms, you know what I mean, and and very, you know, tempestuous and stuff. And he's the one that keeps the calm, you know, he calms her
like
down,
pushing her cloud away.
yeah, and he's just like, you know, the gatherer, you know, like making everything okay. And then the kids, his 3 kids, which were the girl that could hear everything, I forget her name, Dolores, who could hear everything. She's the gossip, you know, she's like, you know, her ear is on everything. And then the little boy who's into everything, the middle boy,
the one that changes his color, changes his image,
Camilo. And then the baby, what was his name?
Antonio,
the baby. And I loved how dark Antonio was. And then the other 2, because Pepa is very, very fair skinned. She's probably the fairest skinned of them all. She has light hair and very light skin. And then her husband Felix is very, very dark, you know, Afro Latino. And so their 2 oldest kids were, you know, that coffee with milk color. And then the youngest one was full dark, you know. So I loved that they did that in the cartoon, because normally, you know, people who don't have a Hispanic background would normally just make them all a shade in between the light parent and the dark parent, you know. But in reality, that's not how it would be, because you know, but
not always how DNA like just falls out that way, you know.
Well, because even the darkest of the Latinos still has that white blend in it. You know what I'm saying? Like we literally have every color within our genetics, you know? So, you know, even Kika's own family, they would have babies that were lighter than they were, you know, with light eyes and stuff like that. And it's because you'd have, you know, we can be any color. It's a crapshoot.
Pretty much. But you also had, so the other thing that I really enjoyed is the fact that they actually got actors that were Latinos.
But I think
that those days are done of like Disney hiring white actors to voice or to play roles of, like, I think they would be crucified if they even tried to pull that shit anymore.
But like, you know what? They always push it. You know,
of course,
they always push it. If they can't find, you know, they look, but they can't find it. You know, but the fact that they actually did, and their characters actually look like them, and
but there was so much Spanish, like, that it would be very difficult for someone who didn't speak Spanish to try to pull that off, you know what I mean, as an actor, you know.
Right. And one thing that I really enjoyed was that they didn't try to whitewash it. They left Spanish in. They left Spanish music. They, you know,
I mean, all the music, almost all of the music, besides like the main songs, but like all of the beautiful music that was laid in the background, and when they were like doing dancing and things, like all of the really emotional songs were totally in Spanish that you had to listen to, you know, read the lyric. I had to read the lyrics, you know.
Right.
And they were beautiful. Like, it was just like, you know.
What? And I gotta say, you know what, probably because I know both English and Spanish, I didn't even notice the difference between the you know, the changing of the languages. Every now and then I would realize it. I was like, oh, they're doing Spanish. And then, but it was so natural in the way that they changed between languages that I barely noticed the difference.
Another thing that I liked is that they didn't make these like unrealistic cartoons of the people. The characters were very realistically Hispanic. they had the noses, they had the hair, they had the, you know what I'm saying? Like all the features, they weren't like over Disneyfied, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And the main girl wasn't this like beautiful, you know, representation of a girl. She was just a plain girl with glasses. And I think a lot of people like,
Really
I don't know,
resonate.
I think they saw themselves in those characters, you know?
Yeah. I thought the way that like there was like an image at one point of like her hugging the abuela at the end, like towards the very end, and there was some image of it like that I noticed of her hair and how her hair was like it was curly and it was messy and it was, you know, it just really represent it to me, even to me as like somebody who has like very straight hair. It just looked very natural, like really, you know, like the one sister with the long beautiful hair and she was so perfect and whatever the case was, like what her name is Maribel.
Isabel.
She no, the main
The
character.
main girl was
Maribel.
Yeah, like she really felt like a real like person that you would know, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So did you want to get into the actual movie? So
Go for it.
So Encanto starts with the grandmother and the husband running to save their lives with their triplets. Basically, war in Colombia broke out and they had to escape for their lives. The husband,
Not just them, it was a group of, it was like the whole town.
it was a group, it was a town. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They were all escaping to save their lives. And the husband, they get to a river, they cross the river, and the husband stays behind to save them. And she sees him basically sacrifice himself for all of them. And she has a candle in her hand, and in the middle, because of her heartbreak and everything, and she basically receives a miracle in the sense of they are basically kind of encased or placed in this town, and this town grows out of this miracle where they're all protected and each of them receives a gift per se.
Well, can I just elaborate on that?
Yes.
Right. I'm going to elaborate on that. So they're running, they cross the river, and he buys them some time because the people are chasing them on horses. And what he does is he stalls them so that everybody else could get away. And so she stays behind and he gives up his life via machete. They don't show you that, but they do show the machete coming out. So he loses his life right there in the river, and she feels, you know, destitute and you know, alone. So like Cindy said, the town grows, like the buildings,
like these walls like grow up around them, or
the mountains grow up around them. Yes,
exactly. And so they're like these people that are sheltered there. And so her own family, her three kids, and her three kids become miracles, right? And they have special powers, right? The three kids, one is a future seer, right? Bruno. One is
Bruno.
one is a healer. She heals with food, which I love the authenticness.
Yeah.
I know. I thought the authenticity of the food too. Like what she was cooking is actual real food that Colombians eat, and a lot of South Americans really. And the last one is can control the weather. Right. And she's very tempestuous, you know, she's very passionate, very emotional. And so I just thought it was so cute. But the healing with the food thing, that's a very Hispanic thing.
I mean, like, how many times, and I guess that's like generationally, like across the board, but like, how many times do you hear about like, oh, my grandmother's soup, or my mom's whatever, like Danny's family sicky soup? Like, it's a thing, like across all cultures, we can all relate to, you know, our mothers or our maternal figures being like, oh, you're sick and I'm gonna take care of you, and here's food, let me feed you, just eat something, just eat and just like that. I just thought that was such a beautiful way to do that. That was really such a good idea.
Yeah, but like you said, the healing with food, and also the everybody in I mean, every Hispanic family has an uncle who sees it and tells it like it is, or an aunt, you know what I mean, who sees it and he's like, I can see your future. It's clear as day. You know what I mean? Like, this is what's going to happen. And so there's a predictor in every family. There's a person who loves to heal, you know, cook for people, like Cindy, you know, loves to cook for people. And there's a drama starter in every family. In my family, I'm the drama starter. I'm the
That's
one.
what.
Are you the drama?
Am I the drama? So I thought that was so cute. Like, watching it, the more you watch it, the more you pick out these little things from, you know, and it's not just Hispanic families, it's in every family.
No, it's not just Hispanic families. But and then of course their kids have gifts as well.
Right.
And then it leads into the part where Maribel's getting up, getting ready, and she's singing and whatnot, and you find out that there's going to be a new gift ceremony happening, but the last one was very disappointing, and it was Mirabel's,
Right.
and because it was disappointing because she didn't receive a gift, supposedly.
Right.
Did not receive a gift, and thus she was put on the shit list by grandma.
That was very sad.
That really was. And it's so the story is about, I think that the theme of the story, the overall message of the story is healing from generational trauma and the expectations that are put upon us by our families. You know,
so no, go ahead.
The truth is, I found that this movie was, while it's cartoons and it's a lot of singing and fun, it is definitely not for the kids. The kids can enjoy it, but the story, the feeling, the everything behind it is definitely not a kid's story. It is an adult story.
The message,
it's adult message in this.
What I thought was interesting as you went through each character, you know, as you met all of the sisters and you met Bruno and you met, you know, whatever, like each one of them felt like they weren't enough in their whatever their gift was. They still felt like she wasn't enough because she didn't have a gift. And, you know, the strong sister would never be strong enough, and Bruno's predictions were always bad, and, you know, the storms were always, you know, out of control, and like no matter what, nobody could live up to what they thought the grandmother wanted from her. But like maybe she didn't even want that much. Like it sort of was like, did she want that much from them, or did they put that on themselves as well?
No, she put that on themselves, but she definitely made it very clear that she.
Well, I felt like she was like mostly harsh to Maribel
because she was the obvious person that didn't have the gift.
Right.
She was the obvious one Bruno, that wasn't in a way contributing, even though she was contributing every single day.
Everything.
And we didn't talk about it yet, but the house itself was enchanted.
She is the house. Yeah, she's the house. Yeah.
And the house spoke and moved and did its own way of speaking, but she understood, and grandma understood the house, and the house worked for them in a way, you know, and did different things. We didn't talk about that, but the house is enchanted. And that's whereas part of the story really comes out of is recognizing it. The house shows the cracks.
So the whole house, the whole village is centered around this house, right? And the villagers look up to this family. The whole family lives in that one house. And the house just expands itself to each member's gifts as they present themselves with the gift, right? So so the three siblings with the magical, you know, with the magic, the two daughters marry. The Bruno doesn't marry. He's excommunicated from the family.
Yeah.
And so the two daughters marry non-magical folks, Felix, and I forget the other one's name, Maribel's father's name. I forget his name.
I can't
So
remember
they're-
his name either.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
non-magical. And so each of those daughters have 3 kids.
Right.
Right. So so you have these 6 cousins, and the only one that doesn't have the magical powers is, of course, Maribel.
Right.
So and the whole house is run by the grandmother. Right. So so yeah, so you don't know why so the story takes place when the story picks up when Antonio is about to get his gift, on the day that Antonio is about to get his gift, right? Which and they flash back and forth between the last time that the gift ceremony is happening, you know, and the new ceremony is happening, right? So do you want to recap the whole story and then go into our theories, or
Just go talk and we'll just talk it out, I guess.
okay, there's this one scene where they recap, where they flash back to when Maribel loses her gift. She doesn't get her gift, right? She touches the candle, and so they're by the door. She touches the candle, and then she's like 5 years old, and she goes to touch the doorknob, but before she touches the doorknob, she cleans her hands on herself.
Yeah.
On her dress. And then she so she goes from touching the candle to wiping her hands on her shirt, and then to touch the doorknob. And as she touches the doorknob, the magic disappears from the door. And she's supposed to go from her nursery to her own special room.
Yeah, her door will lead to her bedroom or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Now, if you notice, her door is directly across from her grandmother's door. Okay.
The nursery.
The nursery, yes, or what would have been her bedroom is directly across from her grandmother's door. She doesn't have the magic, right? So she looks, when the magic disappears, she looks at her grandmother, who's looking at her in horror, and she's just like, so she can sense the disappointment, you know? But there's theories that say that when she touched the candle, the magic from the candle, when she touched herself, she put the magic into herself, and that she's actually the magic. But then there's also theories that say that her grandmother wasn't magical, and her grandmother controlled the house. That was her magic power. So Maribel is supposed to take the place of the grandmother once the grandmother passes on. So that was her power.
Right.
You know,
I didn't understand that my first watch around. Then when I went to looking up some theories, I'm like, oh, like that, it made so much sense. You're like, oh, this is very smart. This is really smart. Yeah.
Yeah. The magic was within her all the time. But like the grandmother, even though she didn't have magic powers, she controlled everybody's powers.
She controls the house, because you see her like move the chair. You know, she controls the house. And also you see that Maribel's really able to like work well in the house, and like probably
she literally controls the house, because when the house falls apart, the house starts falling apart because Maribel is falling apart.
Right.
And so when the house falls apart and kicks the family out, the only person that wasn't kicked out is Maribel. The house continues to help her rescue, to protect her, candle.
Like put that thing over her. And
yeah.
Go ahead. Walk through the rest of the story.
Go ahead, Cindy.
No, I did have something, and I completely it's gone.
So one of the other theories that I saw, I guess I think I sent it to you, or part of the TikTok, maybe I didn't, but that when before Antonio's getting his powers, and he's like shy and quiet under the bed, and she like goes under there and gives him a little stuffy or whatever, like a stuffy of a cheetah. And then he gets his powers, and it's all that he can talk to animals. And it was like almost like she was the one that like gave him the power to talk to animals, because she was going to be the one that, like you're saying, the grandmother controlled the house, and Maribel's her like mirror image, you know, that she is like doing the same thing for the next generation, you know, that
And if you notice, when the house falls apart, the candle goes out completely.
Right.
And so Maribel becomes literally the candle.
She's the gift. Yeah.
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 So that would lend itself to that theory being correct. She's the one that gives the gift, that gives the magical powers, because she's now the miracle. It lives within her.
Yeah.
I just thought it was such a beautiful story.
I thought it was
It is
yeah.
super, super sweet. But if you also think of, I don't know if white culture, but I know in Spanish households, you always have that person that starts to take over for the next family
The
member.
matriarch.
Like the person that where you go to and you have the family dinners, or you go to when things are starting to fall apart. So when that person's starting to go, there's somebody in line to take that position that is the matriarch, like Nydia said. And in this case, it seems to be like it's going towards Maribel.
Gonna be Harry.
And that's so, and that's a good way of saying that may be part of this, the transition of that gift.
Well, yeah,
Instead of
there
her
were-
being having a defined gift, she is the gift.
There was a part of it too that was like the grandmother's getting old and the cracks in the house are because the grandmother's not strong enough to, maintain the house anymore. So like they had her and Maribel had to really mend fences so that
They can
together
transition.
transition it properly.
And it's very possible.
Yeah.
But
yeah, get to the meat and potatoes of it all.
Yeah, so they're in the party because Antonio gets his gift. They go into his room, and his room is like this giant jungle with animals,
So
and
cool,
everything
yeah.
is so cool. It's so big on the inside, and they're partying it up. And Maribel goes outside and practically has a vision. But was it really a vision? But she sees the cracks, and the cracks are happening. And this happens right when the family takes a family photo and they exclude her.
Right.
And she is like, but I am a madrigal. But they did not include her because she didn't have a gift and she didn't marry into the family. So she's kind of like the outcast. So she goes outside and the cracks start to form everywhere.
I mean,
Because
the metaphors
prior
are
to that-
just.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say the metaphors are just like clobbering you over the head.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
See,
cracks in
prior
the
to that,
foundation.
she had a lot of self-love. Even though she didn't have a gift, she had a lot of
Yeah.
self-love.
Yeah.
And so the house, it was just, it was working, it was fine, everything was great. But when she realized the pain of being excluded from her family because she didn't have a gift, she was literally falling apart. And so the house started to fall apart. And the more she hated herself for not having a gift, the more she felt like nobody was, she was like falling out of favor with everyone. The house kept falling and falling apart because she is the house.
Right.
Her grandmother was the house, and now she is the house. So she's completely connected to the house. That is her magical power. That, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she's
as the matriarch,
like the home.
Yeah, as the matriarch, this is like all metaphors, folks, but as the matriarch, the grandmother represented that house, and then her grandmother was letting it all fall apart by not supporting the upcoming matriarch. There was not going to be another matriarch, So she's the chosen matriarch, and because the grandmother didn't accept it and was kind of like letting her be an outcast, really, the house was falling apart. But when she mended fences when she went to go see Bruno, and she got the vision of mending fences with her sister Isabel, who she thought was so perfect, he had told her that was the key to bringing the magic back. And when she does, she realizes that Isabel doesn't want to be perfect.
Right.
Isabel doesn't even want to marry. She's doing it for the grandmother, to please the grandmother.
Right.
So when Isabel finds herself, her true self, the house fixes itself temporarily. But when the grandmother once again confronts Mirabel and says, "What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Why are you destroying our family?" Then the house completely falls apart.
But even before all of this, because we didn't even get to the part where, Maribel goes back inside, tells everyone, they come outside and the house is perfect. So then they're like, it's only because you want attention, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the grandmother's then later seen praying and asking for a miracle again, or asking for the grandfather to help. And then Maribel in the next morning is like asking her father, or talking to her father, I believe, or someone.
Her sister.
She
goes and asks the cousin, like, did you hear anything? And she said, your sister's eye was twitching last night. So then that's when we get the strong song or whatever.
Yeah, because everybody's starting to glitch out, right?
Right. Everybody's
Louisa starts first, is the biggest glitch. Outside of the house literally falling apart, Louisa starts glitching and losing her power. And that's what because she literally has basically the pressure of the whole town on her, in the sense of she
fixes and does everything.
And as she's walking through the town and she's talking to her, can you fix this? My house is leaning, the donkeys are this and that is happening. Can you move the river? Can you do this?
Right.
And she's like, sure, and agreeing to everything. And in the middle of this, her eye starts to glitch.
So an interesting point about the two things that you both just said is like, Maribel talks to Louisa, realizes that she is carrying too much weight. Even though she can, it's not good for her. It's not healthy for her, you know? And then she goes and talks to Isabella and realizes that she's, you know, putting on this perfect facade because that's what the family wants her to do, or whatever the case is. What?
We have
less than a minute. And before she talks to Louisa, she talks to the grandmother about Louisa's. Before she talks to Isabella,
what my point was gonna say, what I was gonna say was like, her repairing these relationships with her two sisters, like, go and come back. Come back. I'm gonna be able to say.
Go ahead.
So what I was saying was, you know, it felt like part of Bruno's prediction, and we'll get into that, was that she had to repair the relationship with her sister, but she was already sort of doing that with Louisa. And then, you know, she has these two moments with both of her sisters where she's like, damn, you guys are like sacrificing for the family too, in a way that I didn't realize. And the grandmother's like, why are you fucking everything up? Like, you're, you know, damaging the family. And she's like, genuinely like trying to repair the relationship with her sisters and like help her sisters out. And it's just like looked at as like this terrible thing that she's doing. And it's like, just chill. She's like just trying to make things better, you know, but like, but the relationship between the sisters is like, seems really, really important to the health of the house, the health of the miracle, you know, or whatever.
And I think it's more about the connection of the whole family, you know, having the family mentally healthy and connected, because like they're all connected.
Like allowing Isabella to like be who she wants to be instead of having to be this perfect person, or allowing Louisa to, you know, be strong, but like also maybe not be the one that carries every single burden for every single person in the whole entire town, you know, and like maybe distributing that a little bit better.
Well, if you think about it, in a home, a home isn't a happy home unless everybody's working, you know, and unless everybody in it is happy.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and if you think about it, when in the end, when the house falls apart and needs to be rebuilt, they have to rebuild it. They have to rebuild it with the help of the townsfolk, which and they had to rebuild it like a construction. It didn't magically build itself. And the house doesn't become magical until Maribel touches the doorknob and
puts her doorknob in.
So she was the carrier of the magic. So
yeah, I thought that was really like the town that had been like relying on them for so long. When the song came out, it was like, lay down your burden. I'm like, oh my God.
I know. And I think I got more emotional the second time I watched it. I felt very more I felt very much more connected. Sorry, I have no words are hard.
Words are hard.
But yeah, it was just so good. I just remember, after the first song and then the second song, and then you got to the song Surface Pressure with Luisa talking about the pressure that she had. That was so intense. And then you go into, she tries to talk to the grandmother, and the grandmother's like,
I'm gonna cry.
basically, fuck you. And then you see Luisa coming through crying, sobbing, and the grandmother's like, everything needs to be perfect because, Isabel's getting engaged today. And Maribel's like, I'm trying to help. She's stressed. She's not okay. And, and of course, Luisa goes to hide, and the grandmother's like, it's your fault that Luisa's having this glitch. It's your fault. You need to go hide because you're not special, basically. And then the father's talking to her, and then she ends up going into Bruno's tower and finding the vision
prediction. Yeah, the vision,
prediction, which is all shiny and green and whatnot. And it shows her with the house breaking in the back of her, and that's all she sees. But later you see that it's actually a hologram because it could be the house falling apart, or it could be the house put together, depending. But basically, like Nydia
all on
saying,
her. Yeah.
Maribel is the key.
Yeah.
And so after this, then goes into Isabel's engagement. And Isabel's engagement goes fully haywire and to shit.
Something that I related to, where the grandmother, like for my family, at least, like where she was the whole time being like, everything's fine, the magic is fine. We just have to get through this, party. And then we have one more party, and then the engagement will happen and everything is going to be fine. We're fine. This is fine. Nobody act like anything isn't fine. Whatever is like making a problem, let's put it behind a closed door and no one has to see it. Bruno gets hidden. Maribel gets hidden. And that is like my family to a T. Like that resonated with me really, really hard, where I was like, oh yeah, like, yes, we have generational trauma. We are simply not going to talk about it.
Right. Denial is the key.
Put it behind a closed door.
Deny.
Yeah.
And then I guess after that whole thing, we get Bruno. Is it after the engagement that we get Bruno's song? Or just before the engagement?
It's right before it.
Oh, the best song. One of my favorites. Anyway, one of my absolute favorites.
It's very catchy.
Yes, it is.
So one of the things I saw
about Bruno.
Somebody was there was someone analyzing the music of the song, and they were saying that if you listen to just that song, all of the family members that are the loudest singers, like the ones you really, really hear about, like he's 7 feet tall and has rats on his back, whatever. All of the people that you really, really hear are saying things about Bruno that are not true. And all of the people, like the cousin who talks about her prediction about she the one that can hear a pin drop, but she talks about the man that she'll never be able to get because he's engaged to someone else. And then Isabella, whatever her prediction was, all of those voices are really, really quiet, and they're all the ones that are true predictions, that like they're not like these exaggerated predictions. And that the song was written that way so that it would like isolate how, or not isolate, but like shine a light on how when we allow people to like lie and say things that are not true, that like those are sometimes the things we hear the most, or that we glean onto the most, when the true things are like, no, he told me a thing and it's sad that it's true, but it's fine, like, whatever. And I did think that, I'm like, God, it's so like the thing about Disney movies, and especially these newer ones, like these really, really good new ones, you're just like, it's so smartly fucking done. If you don't like sit here and analyze every bit of it, you just wouldn't even know how fucking genius it is,
Well, the fact of the matter is that Lin-Manuel is a fucking genius fucking
Ugh.
songwriter.
Okay, same
He's
thing with
fucking-
Moana. Yeah, it's like
He's a fucking genius songwriter.
Yeah.
If he could put those nuances into a song that is that catchy to begin with,
yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
this is the first time what do you call this? The soundtrack. The first time in a long time that a soundtrack, even especially a Disney soundtrack, has hit top of the charts in years.
I mean, it's
Years.
you get.
It's insane.
I will be singing about Bruno for weeks. Like, I mean, truly, like, I was like, woke up this morning and was like, oh, wait, don't talk about. I'm Latino now. I'm not sure if you know, but oh, I can roll my R's all of a sudden.
Allegedly.
I can say Bruno.
There you go.
and the girl, the cousin that can hear really that can hear from long distances, she knew
Yeah.
that Bruno was in the house the whole time, you know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she said it. I heard him on the walls this whole time. I'm like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I really enjoyed her character. I thought she was
Oh, the moment that
very
she,
nuanced.
the very
Yeah.
moment that she was like, she was like, but let me tell you something. When you're doing a little, if you're doing bochinche, which is,
Yep.
gossiping,
Bochinche.
I don't know
There's
how many
the
times
gossip.
you're gossiping with someone and they know all the little ins and outs, and you're like listening, and you're like, and they go at the end. I don't know how many times you actually hear that, but that is a thing. That is
That's a thing
true.
that
I've
happens.
actually, yeah. So she's the one that tells them follow the rat. She follows the rats because she says, I hear the rats talking. So after the engagement, the house starts falling apart. Everything falls apart because they see the vision is in front of grandma, because the rats put
Right.
the stuff together, or one of the animals start putting the vision together, and the grandma sees it, and they're like, the house completely falls apart because they're basically outed, that things aren't well put together.
It's falling
And
apart. Yeah.
she follows the rats, and in the midst of following the rats, she finds Bruno within the walls.
Well, I think that the house falls apart because the initial house was built on grandma's magic. And when
Mhm.
she started to let the family fall apart and like lose themselves, the house started to fall apart as grandma's vision of her family dynamic started to fall apart, because everybody has their vision of how their family should
Mhm.
be.
Right.
As soon as that starts to stray, the house started to fall apart, and it was
Absolutely.
up to Maribel to put it back together. I keep going back to that same thing.
Yeah. And so she's going through the walls, and she's finding that there's a bunch of cracks in the walls. There's also, and she's chasing Bruno through the walls. And there's a moment, and Dana, you wouldn't understand this, but he's outside of the parts where he's knocking on the wood, trying to protect
Yes,
things and keep
I
things
do
safe.
understand that.
There's another part where you wouldn't understand, and he's hopping around certain areas, and he's saying, sana, sana, culito de rana. And I don't know if Nydia saw that, but he's hopping around. And that's a thing that you say when in Latin households where it's there, if you have a boo-boo or if you fall or whatnot, your family member would come, your mom would or parent would come over and say, sana, sana, culito de rana, sino sana hoy, sana mañana, which is, if we translate it, it makes no sense. Even in
Is it the frog thing
Spanish,
that you
it
always
makes
talk
no
about?
sense. It's basically heel frog's
Little
ass,
frog butt.
frog's butt. If it doesn't heal today, let it heal tomorrow. And again, it makes no sense in Spanish, but it makes no sense in English. But he's saying this, and you barely hear it. And the only reason I knew to make sure to listen for it was because of fucking TikToks. Also, going back to the Bruno song, did you guys notice him in the background? He was dancing and vibing in the song.
Yeah.
In the background, in the shadows.
Someone noticed that, you know how he wears that green color?
Yes.
That's Disney's invisible green.
Go
So
away
Disney-
green. That's
Yeah,
the actual
Disney-
color.
Yeah, they paint all of their trash cans in the parks that color because they did science experiments that realized that people just don't see that color. So that's why he's that color, and he's in the background of all of the movie, and you just don't see him because he's the invisible Disney green. It's so nuts. Like, it's so crazy to me. Like, you're just like, people with like science and art, and they're just like, yeah, people don't see this green, so we're just gonna like make it a thing. And like all of the humans are like, what green? We don't see that. And
But
we just
also,
do it. We just do it. What the fuck is that?
Mirabelle's eyeglasses were green.
Yeah.
And so we wonder if we were wondering how that incorporated, if she just, while she's not invisible, she's can see everything clearly through their bullshit.
Let's have more thoughts about that.
I love how Disney is staying away from the romantic princess type of
we're done with
story.
that.
Oh, we're over
done
that
with
shit.
Yeah, and like we're moving. I think their last movie, like truly, because Mulan could have been that, but truly wasn't. And
probably Rapunzel that tangled up, probably.
I think that the one that was that started to stay away was Brave, because it was a mother-daughter relationship.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, the first one to like steer away from it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think officially the first one to steer away was Brave.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I loved Brave. I thought Brave was great.
Besides the Toy Story franchise and all that, but like, and Brother
like a feminine based, story. Yeah, right.
Protagonist.
Right.
Right.
But this was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree.
It was awesome.
Yeah, we're done with that. We're done with
Yeah.
that. How about when she goes into the wall and she finds Bruno's little, like, and she sees his little table, and then he's like looking through the thing, and he's like, I love my family, I just can't be around them. And I'm like, oh my God.
No. The part that
She's
got
like
me,
touching his plate and
the plate area with the attached, like the extended table, you could say.
Oh my! So he's just like sitting there by himself and like pretending.
The rats were fantastic too, doing their little parts. Always the mice.
I thought that was so sweet.
That was so sad.
So when she confronts the grandmother at the river, which is something that she had never gone to since she lost her husband at the river's edge. Yeah. When she confronts her grandmother and she tells her that she's the reason the family's falling apart, because of her expectations, and that Bruno didn't leave the family, that she threw him out, and that, that Bruno loves the family, but, at that part was just like, I just started crying.
And then here comes comic relief. Bruno comes like around the corner on the horse, and he's like, she didn't do it. She didn't do it. He's like hanging off the edge of the horse.
I know.
The grandmother like it's his mother. She hugs him, and he's like, I feel like I missed something very important here.
Well, it was all part of his vision that Maribel made him do. And and here comes little Antonio with all his animals, and he's like, the rats told me everything. You can use my room for the vision. And so they go and do that whole vision thing, and that's when they find out that Maribel needs to talk to her sister and connect with her sister. That there's a yellow butterfly involved, and if you look at Maribel's dress, there's butterflies all over her dress.
There's also embroidery for every character, or every one of her family members' superpowers or something.
Right,
on her dress.
Right. And so after the whole vision thing, she tries to connect with, and Nydia brought this up, she tried to connect to Isabel because she says, he told her, you have to hug your sister. Basically, Bruno says, you have to go hug your sister. And she's like, no, she hates me. And the reality is she found that it wasn't so much her sister as much as it was also her who had animosity towards her sister, and because of perceived notions that she had. And sometimes that happens in all our families where, people think you're perfect or think you have it all. And the reality is they don't know how broken you are inside, or how much you sacrifice of who you are to meet expectations of what they need. And that's what was happening with Isabel. And the moment she starts seeing who she really is. Fuck the roses went to hell. Everything just like started. There was cactuses and beautiful flowers
Kind
and
of went
unique
all
flowers.
punk rock.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, I saw that. She went all punk rock.
Like her hair
Yes,
was
and-
all dyed, the flowers she was kicking dyed her hair a bunch of colors. I'm like, yes, bitch.
Yes. And the house started healing and the candles started shining really bright. And then they come outside and they're happy. And then the grandmother starts yelling at them.
And like, how
and yelling
often?
at Maribel about how wrong it was. And
Right.
yes, you were saying?
I was just gonna say, like, how often too do we have like the older generation? Like, I know I'm probably guilty of it with my kid, like the older generation, like just not listening to what the younger ones are saying. Like, if the grandmother would have listened a little bit, maybe they could have like remedied it before the whole house was destroyed, or like, just like being like, well, I'm older, you have to respect what I say because I like was born before you. And it's like, well, sometimes younger people actually know what the fuck they're talking about, or like sometimes kids like have insightful things to say, like maybe we should listen to them sometimes.
And
But it doesn't seem like throughout the story they were even trying to communicate that. You know what I mean? It just seemed like they were just trying to comply with the grandmother. Like they just saw it as like.
But she was. Maribel tried to talk to her a bunch.
She was the only one.
Right. Yeah.
And then in that final moment where Isabel and Maribel connected and the grandmother came down pissed off because
and ruins it.
Isabel was not looking her pink rosy self. She was looking like herself, who she wanted to be.
Right.
And the grandmother lost her shit on Maribel and blamed her for everything.
Can we talk about some disappointments?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was like kind of upset that Maribel's mother didn't have more say in anything that happened. It's almost like she wasn't even like,
she was barely a character. She was a character, but she was underutilized, I feel.
Now, I sort of like felt like, was that because the grandmother like runs things that like the kids weren't able to have a say, like whether it regarded their children or not, like the grandmother still is the head of the house and whatever she says is going to go,
Absolutely.
Because you do see that one point where she's yelling at Maribel, the grandmother's yelling at Maribel's dad, like, why didn't you tell me as soon as you saw the prophecy or whatever, the vision? And he's like, I'm trying to protect my daughter, like that was like the only time somebody really seemed to like stand up for Maribel,
right? Right. And another thing that got me, I was like a little bit lost. Okay. So when she's holding the candle at Antonio's ceremony, the grandmother, she says, it's been 50 years since we got the miracle. So I'm thinking Antonio is maybe the oldest that Antonio could possibly be is 8. Okay. So that means that if her daughter, Antonio's mother, she had him when she was at least 42 years old. And she was a late parent.
Yeah, but she's got 2 older kids too.
Yeah, but I was just like, 50 years? Really? So then how old is Maribel?
Maribel's 15.
She's 15. And how old is her cousin, the one that can transform?
I didn't look that up.
Because he's got to be.
Yeah, they got to be like probably 20s, like early 20s, maybe. They're starting to all get to be like marrying age. It looks like Isabella's the first one that's going to get married. So what, she maybe 25,
That's why I thought Maribel was a little bit older.
I thought so too, but when I checked the wiki, it said that she was only 15.
So
which I thought was weird because I would have thought Camilo would have been younger than her.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming he must have been older than her because she was the one before the Antonio's.
Yeah. So that just had
Camilo must be older than Maribel.
Okay, hold on.
According to the wiki, I want to say. Either way, he's got to be older than her.
Yeah, because her ceremony was the last one.
Before Antonio's, right. So,
What's
But-
Dana's
whole-
age?
I was just looking up how old everybody is. Okay, the little guy is 5. She's 15. Okay, sorry, it's a YouTube video. I just want to watch it really quick, but I'm gonna turn
Yeah,
it.
so that's what I thought, that he was 5. So that means that the mom had him when she was 45.
that's possible.
I know it's possible, but it's
Stranger
just kind
things
of-
have happened. I'll let you know. Hold on, it's like a
But so, yeah.
okay. Grandmom's 75. Sorry. Go ahead. Talk amongst yourselves while I figure this out.
Grandma's 75. We're acting like this is real. This is fucking Disney. I just really like the story.
I like the story. So the
Okay.
house, yes.
Luisa is 19. Isabella is 22.
Oh, so she's the oldest.
She's the oldest. Yeah. The triplets are 50. The one that can hear a pin drop is 22. Hold on, I lost it.
But the song, Isabella's not Isabella's song. Luisa's song is about being the oldest.
Yeah, but she's not. She's an older sister. Well, I mean, according to that YouTube video, that's all. I'm just,
Yeah, it
But I
could
thought
be,
she was the
according to
oldest because
song.
that's like her whole song is I'm the oldest sister.
Yeah. So maybe they
Uh,
have those two backwards.
Yeah, maybe.
But that, yeah, she could be 19 getting married. Anything's possible.
Yeah, maybe they're
But so the house crumbles apart because grandma's losing her shit over Isabella transformation and Maribel's doing of that.
Uh-huh.
And the
Right.
house literally starts to fall completely apart. And they're trying to save the candle, and the candle, everybody's trying to save the candle with their gifts. Meanwhile, Maribel is the only one to actually make it to the candle, but it's too late. And the
Right.
house basically saves her and couples her into this little V-shaped area. And I don't know if you noticed, but at the end, when she's coupled in there, you can see the door open. You know how the door used to say good hello to everyone?
Mhm.
It's basically some people say that it's probably saying goodbye
Oh.
at that point when the door opens for no reason, because the door opens for no reason. And then so people say that that's basically the door saying goodbye. And that's when Maribel goes to the lake, to the river. And that's when Grandma Nydia was talking about this. Grandma and Maribel have the discussion.
And that's when you really get to see like what the grandmother had actually went through. Like, right?
Right. The
So
visions.
we all knew, and the family knew that the grandfather died, and it was really sad. But like, that's where you really get to witness like what actually happened and what her grandmother actually went through. And she's like, "Holy shit, you still created all of this beautiful life for us, even though you had this horrible thing happen to you. And like, I get why this is so scary for you to lose
Mhm.
our home, but what's the point if we lose the family, So
Right.
Mhm.
It was very beautiful. It was very
so
beautiful. And
beautiful.
as the matriarch of my family, I
agree
really
with her quickly.
Sure.
What'd you
Sorry. Sure. So they piece it up. Her and Maribel piece it up. Then there's this bunch of yellow butterflies that was also in Bruno's vision.
Mhm.
That's come in
Just
and
like the
basically
lands. Yeah.
lands around and starts flying around everyone, just kind of magical. And Bruno appears, and they go to the place, and that's where Nydia was talking about the town folks coming in, because after they took so much help and required so much help from this little family,
Yeah.
all these high expectations that they had for this little family, the townsfolk finally came in and helped put the house, everything back together. But with their natural abilities, no special abilities, no magic, because the magic was broken. The enchantment was broken
Right.
at this point. And everybody had to realize what their natural abilities wasn't just their gifts, it was something more than that. And they had to realize they were more than just their gifts.
Right.
So
So they rebuild the house, and Mirabelle touches the doorknob and puts the magic back into the house.
It was her doorknob too. Like it
Yeah.
had an M on it.
Yeah.
Like that was like her
It
special
was her
doorknob.
original doorknob.
Yeah.
and what I find so special was like so there was one of my favorite moments is where Felix and Tia Pepa are dancing under the hailstorm. And they weren't shooing away her emotions anymore.
Mm-mm.
He was standing there and he was dancing with her, even though she had obvious emotions going on.
Yeah.
And he was always with her because he knew when her emotions were there. It's like kind of obvious. But despite
Right.
all of that, he was always there and supporting her. That was one of my favorite couples.
That was beautiful, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nitty.
Are you crying?
No.
No, I'm not crying. I haven't been crying all afternoon about this fucking movie. When the town came to build the fucking thing, I just like simply like I was already like really upset about the grandmother thing, and like I didn't cry when I watched it last night. I was like, oh, that was a cute like cartoony movie, whatever. But today I really like watched it and like paid attention to it. And when the grandmother like went through that journey where they, you saw what she went through and they healed in the Bruno thing and so, and I was crying during that part. But then when the whole town shows up and they like has a shovel over his shoulders and he's like, whatever, I'm like, oh my god, I get like it was just like, yeah, like that's right, like that's how shit gets better when everybody just shows up for each other, like how many times have like I've been broken and you guys show up here to like help me and take care of me, or like you're sad and we're like, let's go to dinner just to make each other feel better, even if it's just a small thing. It's like just like the community that we like build around our friends and family is like it's fucking cool, man. It's beautiful.
But it's worth it when they actually come out and do their part. Like you put in so much. Like this family was putting out so much, but you never saw the town giving back. And
the
this
miracle
was their
itself,
moment.
The miracle itself gave the townspeople the protection and prosperity. The miracle itself did that for the townspeople. So
Right.
in the end, when the miracle was gone, the townspeople came back
They have to do it,
to
yeah.
rebuild,
Yeah.
and to help them rebuild. And then when the magic comes back, then it was because everybody contributed to that. Because initially they were given that, but the second time around they had to build it. What a thought. So beautiful. So beautiful. I'm such a big fan of Lin-Manuel, I'm telling you.
Yeah, definitely. There's something too, just like you guys were talking about the house a minute ago that I didn't get to say, but I wanted to circle back to it.
Sure.
There's something about Disney that Disney has the ability to make like inanimate objects feel really real. And like the carpet from Aladdin, like when he's like, like, or like the house when she's like, this house is not going to decorate itself, and the house is like, like, no, you could. I thought that was so cute. Like,
yeah. How about the kookaburra? Did you catch that one? The kookaburra?
The capybara.
The capybara. How he's
I loved him. He was one of my favorites. or
in the tub at the end.
It looks so good too. It looked really real.
or the toucan who went into Bruno's tower with her, and they got to a point and he was like, I'm out.
And she's like, she goes, at least I have company, and he flies away. And she goes, oh, you immediately just fly away. It's like how I would talk, you know what I mean? It's like how like we regularly talk. It felt really like relatable, like really, really relatable.
The whole
I mean,
movie.
not all of it for me, but like really relatable as them as like people and characters. It was really great.
I mean, I've got to tell you, I can definitely watch this again and get more out of it. I feel like I can get so much out of it. I mean, I found that, so they said that they rebuilt the foundation of the house, and it was to me that when they rebuilt the foundation of the house, they also rebuilt it on the foundation of acceptance of each of the characters, who each of the characters was. And because the acceptance is there and embracing each of who they are, it made their foundation stronger, not just as a physical entity of the house, but as a family.
How many of you raise your hand if you downloaded the soundtrack?
No, I'm cheap.
I don't really download music, but
Danny
I would listen to
Danny might download it. Well, she won't download it, but I'll download it on her Spotify.
I'll be listening to that on my way to work.
Yeah,
it's so good. The music was so good.
It was definitely fantastic. So, I thought part of her gift was what's her name's gift? Was empathy.
Maribel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that. Sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she had to develop it, but in a way, because she was like, empathy towards Isabella, fuck that bitch.
Right. Well, and like that was the sister dynamic was spot on for me. Like, like just like the not understanding your siblings and like your siblings pitting each other, like, pitted against each other because one thinks the other is perfect, or everyone thinks your sister is perfect and you're like always coming up short for her. That was like, I was like, oh, you motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Like, that was they really did nail the like sibling dynamic, I thought, pretty well. The sister dynamic specifically, anyway. I don't know about other people, but for me, I was like, ooh, that was tough. Yeah,
the characters were just so relatable and realistic. Like I can find at least one person I know in my family that resembles each and every character. And it's like, how do they do that? Are we that stereotypical and predictable that like it's so interchangeable?
Not necessarily. I think Lin-Manuel Miranda is very just like has his finger on the pulse of how people are, like I think culturally, I've been seeing on a lot of TikToks how people are like, this really represented my culture, and I'm sure that it did. What do I know? But it really represented families in general, like
family dynamics. Yeah,
all of us have, whether it's your grandmother or your grandfather or your mom or whoever, we all have like an overbearing somebody in the family that none of us meet up the expectation to.
Yeah,
we all have asshole siblings or cousins that are doing things that we disapprove of. We all have the one creepy uncle that's like doing it. So like it's families, it's communities. It's just like I don't think it has anything to do with like you all being stereotypically Hispanic, or whatever. But I think the things that were beautiful in the Hispanic stuff was like what you mentioned, like the way the food was so real, or the way, that kind of stuff that's like really like landed even for someone who only gets to see it when I come to your house. You know what I mean? Like, I see how beautiful food is represented in other cultures, like that's one of my favorite things about traveling is like getting to experience the food of the people that live in Greece or in Costa Rica or whatever, like if, in Puerto Rico or wherever I've been, like that is one of like the most beautiful things is to like see how people interact with food. So that was very easily like for me to pick up on that it was a big deal.
There was a TikTok of this little girl. It was a foreign country, but they translate these Disney movies to every language. It was a little girl. She looked just like Mirabelle. I mean, just like the baby version of Mirabelle, the little girl version.
Yeah.
And she was like looking on the screen, and she's like, "That's me. That's me."
Oh
Like,
my God.
yeah, it was so freaking cute. If I see it, I'm gonna send it to you. It was so freaking cute.
Oh my God.
There's one of the little boy too. There's an article about the little boy that saw himself in Antonio. And they
Oh,
put
really?
it side by side and they looked so much alike. The actual actor that played the voice was actually almost exactly like the
Really?
cartoon as well. Yeah.
It's so like, it really is like, I could see how it's important for kids to like see themselves represented in a way that's not shitty, or like, that's not like, oh, we watch whatever, like Law and Order or something, and all of the people of color are criminals. Like they're not, or all of the people of color in like movies are, vilified in some way. And like, so to get these movies like this or like Moana or whatever, Aladdin even, like he's portrayed as a criminal and a liar and like, like, so, but to have these movies really starting to come out, like you can really see why that is like such a big fucking deal for kids to like see themselves represented in a way that's like positive and fun and funny and loving, and it's really great.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
We have less than a minute left.
So we're running out of time for
Anyway, I loved it. I thought it was so sweet. I thought it was a great movie, and I super look forward to more of Disney like putting out these movies that are, representative of like cool shit that I didn't get to grow up with. I think that's really great.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see what other like, I don't know, woke. I guess woke.
Yeah, just, like, and also like touching, like what the fuck, like really rubbing up hard against, generational trauma. Like that's a term like I didn't know 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, or did you watch Inside Out?
Yeah.
A whole movie based on your emotions and like mental illness. It's like, it's so good. And like, we're really getting to like, I love it. I love that kind of shit. I think it's going to be much better than like, Snow White and Cinderella. It's just, it is what it is,
Yeah.
I just thought it was fantastic. Cartoons that are made for kids, but really they were made for adults to have a message and something to relate to.
Yeah.
Man, if if parents gotta watch the cartoons, they might as well enjoy them with them.
I mean, you just like watch these TikToks and you're like, it's resonating so deeply with people in a way that you're like, clearly we're lacking this. Clearly we want this, like it's very, very clear that people need this kind of shit. So like, just like financially for you, it would be good to just do it. You know what I mean? Because people want it. People
storyline.
Yeah, these kind of stories, like, Wonder Woman comes out. Like Wonder Woman maybe was not like a perfect feminist X, right? But like women came out in droves to see that movie. Like Black Panther, like people of color came out in droves to see that movie. It's like, because there's so little like that we get to like glob onto that represents, women in power or people of color that are positively whatever. So like, and they make the most money that whole year. So it's like, it's dumb for them not to just do it because we want to see it and we'll spend our money on it, So
people who have been marginalized are now, they're learning that those are the people that still watch the movies and spend the money on the movies and do all that stuff. So.
Yeah, so it's like whatever, they're probably doing it for the wrong reason, but like who cares? Because we get the product and like the message gets out there and like we get to see a cool movie where like little kids get to see themselves represented. I think that's cool as shit, you know?
Yeah.
So
It was
fun.
good.
Yeah.
I
That
liked
was
it.
great. Yeah, I liked it a lot.
So
Okay, bye.
bye. Hope you guys like it too. Let us know what you think.
Thanks for dining with us. See you next month.